Hi there, I'm Renos Vakis, lead economist at the World Bank, and your host for Accelerating Development, Ideas for Impact. This is not your typical podcast. It's an AI-powered conversation brought to you by the World Bank Institute for Economic Development, where we unpack the latest research with one goal in mind, turning big ideas into real-world impact. Let's get started.
Thanks for the intro, Renos. Welcome back to Accelerating Development. Today, we're examining the practical application and ongoing evolution of behavioral science within development research. This field, which gains significant momentum with frameworks like the World Bank's 2015 World Development Report, Mind, Society, and Behavior, continues to offer fresh perspectives on persistent development challenges.
Indeed, that WDR was pivotal in underscoring that effective policy requires a deep understanding of actual human decision-making, which is often automatic, profoundly social, and guided by ingrained mental models rather than purely deliberative cost-benefit analyses. A recent large-scale meta-analysis on the COVID-19 vaccination communication provides a particularly compelling modern case study of these principles in action and what they mean for us as researchers.
So let's explore how this COVID-19 paper, which synthesized 28 online experiments across mainly low-income countries, reflects those core WDR 2015 behavioral tenets. How, for instance, did thinking socially manifest in the findings?
Very clearly and quite powerfully. WDR 2015 highlighted the pervasive influence of social networks, norms, and trusted sources on individual choice. The COVID paper found the strongest impacts on vaccination intentions came from messages leveraging experts and religious leaders. This combination increased the odds by 45%. Messages from experts and celebrities also performed very well, increasing odds by 33%. This empirically grounds the theoretical importance of social trust and perceived authority in shaping high-stakes health decisions, especially in diverse cultural settings. It moves beyond theoretical assertion to empirical demonstration.
And the role of thinking with mental models as discussed in the WGR 2015, this idea that our pre-existing frameworks for understanding the world filter how we process new information, seems particularly relevant for health communication.
Absolutely. The COVID studies showed that endemic framing, messages that acknowledged COVID-19 as an ongoing reality rather than a crisis with a clear endpoint, was highly effective, increasing intention odds by 42%. This suggests that messages aligning with the public's evolving mental model of the pandemic, their current understanding of the new normal, had greater resonance. For instance, if the prevailing mental model shifts from emergency response to long-term management, messaging needs to adapt. The varied effectiveness of, say, safety or variant framing across different national contexts also likely points to diverse underlying mental models regarding specific risks, the nature of scientific progress, or trust in health authorities in those specific settings.
And the role of thinking automatically, our reliance on System 1, the fast, intuitive mode of processing?
Well, the COVID study didn't explicitly differentiate System 1 versus System 2 processing in its outcomes, but its methodological approach using concise, behaviorally informed messages, often delivered via rapidly consumed social media, implicitly acknowledged this. The aim was to make key arguments salient and to cut through information overload, influencing intentions without necessarily requiring deep deliberative engagement for every individual, something WDR 2015 highlighted as crucial, given our limited cognitive bandwidth.
So strong validation of core behavioral principles. Methodologically, what can researchers and economists take away from this paper's approach to studying these phenomena?
This is where the paper is particularly exciting. I believe the coordinated use of online survey experiments across 23 LEMCs demonstrates a powerful methodology for rapid, relatively low-cost testing of multiple interventions at considerable scale. This is complemented by the robust use of individual participant data, or IPD, meta-analysis. This technique is particularly valuable because by pooling the raw individual level data rather than just aggregated study results, it allows for a more nuanced synthesis of findings and a more statistically powerful exploration of heterogeneity in treatment effects across diverse populations and settings.
That systematic exploration of heterogeneity is always critical for understanding external validity and for tailoring interventions. What did the COVID paper uncover here, and what questions does it raise for us as a research community?
This is an area where the paper is both insightful and provocative. It found significant heterogeneity. Different messages worked differently depending on the country and also on some individual characteristics like age and gender. However, and this is a critical finding for future research, many common study-level contextual moderators, such as a country's GDP or its pre-existing COVID-19 vaccination rates, did not significantly explain much of this observed cross-country variation. This is a direct call to us as researchers to dig deeper.
Meaning our standard arsenal of contextual variables, those readily available macro indicators, might be insufficient for fully understanding the complex interplay between behavioral interventions and diverse local realities.
Precisely. It strongly suggests a need for richer, perhaps more qualitative or mixed methods approaches to identify the specific cultural norms, historical factors, prevailing social narratives around science or authority, or even very granular aspects of institutional trust that are truly mediating these differential effects. Simply documenting that context matters isn't enough. We need to develop better theories and empirical strategies to understand which aspects of context are decisive for which types of interventions in which populations. This points towards less easily measured factors like prevailing social narrative around science, historical trust in specific institutions, or even very localized communication ecologies.
And what about the study's own limitations, which are always important for us to critically assess when interpreting findings and designing our own future studies?
The authors are commendably transparent here. A key limitation is the non-representative nature of the Facebook-based sampling, which, as is common with such methods, can skew towards certain demographics, potentially underrepresenting older, poorer, or less digitally connected individuals. And critically for behavioral science, the study measures self-reported vaccination intentions rather than verified vaccination uptake. This intention-action gap, a concept that WDR 2015 thoroughly explored, is a well-known and persistent hurdle in translating stated preferences into actual behavior change.
So this clearly signposts a rich and important agenda for future research then.
Absolutely. Key questions for the research community to tackle include: how can we design and rigorously test interventions that effectively bridge this intention-action gap in the context of vaccination and other critical public health behaviors? What are the specific behavioral frictions, be they cognitive, emotional, or logistical, at play in that final last mile from intention to actual uptake? Secondly, how robustly do these findings from online survey experiments translate to broader offline populations, and most importantly, to actual verified behavior change in real-world settings? This calls for more studies that can link survey experiments to administrative health data or direct behavioral observation where ethically and practically feasible. And thirdly, as we've emphasized, major frontiers to develop better theoretical frameworks and mixed methodologies that can help us systematically unpack and predict the sources of cross-contextual heterogeneity in response to these kinds of behavioral interventions. Furthermore, longitudinal studies tracking the persistence of these messaging effects on intentions and their ultimate conversion to behavior over time would be invaluable for understanding the durability of such nudges.
So to conclude, this COVID-19 vaccination study serves as a powerful exemplar. It shows behavioral science principles clearly articulated in frameworks like WGR 2015, moving from conceptual arguments to large-scale empirical application, yielding not only valuable substantive insights for public health, but also significant methodological lessons and important provocations for us in the development research community.
I think that's a fair and accurate assessment. For us as researchers and economists, the key takeaways are to continue the robust integration of nuanced behavioral theories into our economic models and empirical designs. We need to thoughtfully employ these newer, rapid experimental methods, always critically evaluating their specific trade-offs and complementarities with more traditional approaches. And perhaps most crucially, we must relentlessly pursue a deeper, more theoretically grounded understanding of why interventions yield differential impacts across diverse contexts, because that's where the next wave of breakthroughs in designing truly effective and scalable development solutions will likely come from.
It's evident that the continued focus on the intricacies of human behavior, coupled with ongoing methodological innovation and the commitment to understanding context, will absolutely be critical for development research to effectively inform policy and genuinely accelerate progress on global challenges. An exciting and demanding agenda lies ahead for all of us in the field. Over to you, Rinos.
Thank you for joining us. You can find the full report on our website. Just follow the link in the description. Be sure to subscribe to be the first to know about upcoming episodes. And before you go, how do you plan to put what you learn into practice? And what topics you'd like us to explore next? We'd love to know. Until then, goodbye.